All right, so the game's over. In my game, the British made it so it was a draw, but so the British made it a draw because they got two counters into row 5. But I made a mistake. First of all, let's talk about how they got there. They got there because they were here across the bridge. They just laid down a ton of artillery. Let's see, is that how that worked? How'd they move into that hex? Did they get 2 times that happen? Oh, I think it might have been 2 times that happened. It did happen 2 times. So they destroyed a unit, and so they were able to advance into the combat phase. Then they did it again against a German lone unit over here. Now, here's the situation. When that happens, you're still sitting there, and the Germans then can fire artillery. I spent all my German artillery over here because there was an opportunity for them to attack, and I was like, well, I don't want them to get that. These guys, so I put all my artillery over here because my thinking was, it didn't matter if they're DG'd or not, they're still going to move in here. Well, here's the problem with me not DGing them. If I would have DG'd them, their defense would have been halved as well. So they weren't halved, and I got the odds to 2 to 1. And they needed to roll a 9 or higher to win. The Germans needed to roll a 9 or higher in their attack to make them retreat, thus getting them out of 5, Germans moving in, and Germans would have had a clear victory. However, so I needed a 9 or higher. I rolled an 8. If I had DG'd them, I would have only needed a 7 or higher. I would have had an 8. I would have won. So, lesson there, DG when you can, and it matters. So, on that attack, I didn't even do anything up here in the last turn because it didn't matter, and I was on live, so I wanted to get the game done, and it honestly didn't matter up here. I think I made a couple mistakes moving some guys and counting wrong. These 2-5-6s, because they're 6s, they only cost 2 to move in heavy bocage, not 5 like like things with 8 movement. So that was a mistake. I needed to. But I don't know how much I didn't. That hurt them. I did get some guys over here. I mean, as a German, I would pretty much do the same thing. Maybe move a little further up to kind of protect that. But it would seem like your line would be so thin. As the British, I would have come down here. I might have left somebody in this town and here to kind of slow down the reinforcements. They could have all come on here. And I should have left some guys outside of Bastogne, out of Villers Bocage on these 2 things here to make it so that they couldn't cross this river so easy. Because most of the German units cannot, in fact, I don't think any of them cannot cross these rivers at all. So if you're at the bridges, then they're stuck. So you need to, as the British, put a couple guys here and then maybe, defend a couple of the roads if you can. There's that tiger right there, though, so you're going to be in trouble. So, I mean, these guys would all be down to 3 to 1. You'd have to really line them up because both McMurray and I lost this town on turn 4 as the British. If you would have had an extra line of defense, it might have been turn 5 or 6. Maybe you could have gone the whole turn. It's a 6-turn game. So I think that's a lesson there. So buffer Villers and maybe put a guy here and there. Not on K because you can't be in 1. And I'm not clear on the half hexes. I need to figure that out.
8 dead Germans to 15 dead British.
Easy. So what would you do differently, or?
I don't know what I would necessarily do differently to win the game. Other than the British just almost ignoring that first turn. I took out a couple of these little units that were here. Little isolated German units. I should have said, screw it, just push straight south. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm kind of... Oh, go ahead.
Maybe spread out the units that I sent to Villers Bocage, put some in like Cahan, whatever these other little towns are.
Maybe
so they weren't as easy to just surround and destroy. Not that was easy, but
you could have slowed down where the reinforcements came in. I did think about doing that, but then I thought, no.
All right, overall, very enjoyable. I've enjoyed my 2 games of Day of Days
It's been fun playing at the same time as McMurray, so we can kind of compare notes and kind of play live together and kind of, again, just kind of keep each other motivated to keep going. It's cool. So if you want a monster game of D-Day with some small scenarios, this is a pretty good one. You can usually find a pretty good price, $60 or less at places. I wouldn't pay much more than that. It takes a long time to set up, but it's enjoyable, and there is potential for an entire D-Day game, which is pretty cool if you wanted to bring a bunch of friends over and give it a shot over a few weekends. Anyway, that's that. Been good. I'm not sure what's next on the calendar, but we'll be playing France 40 now, and we'll see. I'll talk to you later.